Well, good afternoon, Fire Chief.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for asking me.
Yeah. Jeffrey Johnson from Kansas City, Missouri, right?
That's correct.
So do they call you Jeff or Jeffrey or JJ?
Jeff.
All right.
Jeff is fine. Family members call me JJ, and
Right.
if I'm in trouble, my mother says Jeffrey.
Okay, I remember that. Well, welcome to the show. We want to learn more about you, and we also want to learn what challenges you may have in the fire service and what kinds of things you will be focused on. And then we'll get into more of the specifics of Fire Prevention Week.
Sure.
and what kind of the public should be looking at in expectation of that week and what you're trying to accomplish with that.
That's great.
What made you decide to come all the way from Kansas City, Missouri to, Monterey and city of Salinas?
Well, there was a lot of things that really attracted me to the area.
Yeah.
One, the city's a dynamic, really multicultural city.
Right.
That has challenges just like every other major city across the country. And so the opportunity to, one, head an organization, be able to put your philosophy into play and how you think operationally and prevention and all the type of outreach programs that you would like to do that you can't do where you're at, really seemed like a great opportunity here. And it doesn't hurt that it's California. The weather's much better. There's no snow.
Right.
So we don't have the extremes of the cold, and we don't have the extremes of the really super high heat.
Right.
So a lot of those things, the quality of life in the county here. And then when you look at the organization, a really, really strong organization,
Yes.
Operationally, technically,
Right.
involved in a lot of things. And I still love being involved in the day-to-day, hands-on type stuff. And so when you kind of put all that together, there wasn't a reason not to come out here.
Right. Well, we're very happy you're here. Now, you have something on the order of 31, 32 years of experience in the fire service?
That's correct. So going on 32 years.
Wow.
And started at the very bottom as a firefighter and became a firefighter EMT. And then went to paramedic school in '89 and worked my way through the ranks to engineer and a captain on an ALS engine, and worked in the streets as an EMT medic on my days off. Also worked as a flight paramedic on a helicopter.
Wow.
And then worked my way up to deputy chief at Kansas City, Missouri. So it's been a exciting career. It's amazing how fast time flies when they have the saying that if you're doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. And
Right.
I've always loved this. And my passion is the fire service and community outreach, those type of programs. So I've been blessed.
Well, that's great. So Kansas City is a pretty large city compared to the city of Salinas. It's probably 4 or 5 times population-wise.
So Kansas City is about 500,000
Right.
population, and as far as the footprint of the fire and EMS there, it's all provided by the fire department, ambulance transport, everything.
Right.
ALS first response.
Okay.
It's in a square miles of about 320 square miles.
All right.
So while there is a larger population, there are just a few pockets in Kansas City that is, I would say, as dense as the city of Salinas.
Okay.
So, but the commonalities between the two cities are very very easy to identify, and there's a lot of challenges across the country in the fire service. So,
Right.
so there's a lot of commonality. So while the city is much bigger, it's more spread out. It just feels, Salinas actually feels like a bigger city the way it's compact and dense. So yeah.
Well, we have our challenges. We have some of the our communities in our wonderful city that actually are as dense as some of the places back east, like New York.
Absolutely.
Or even San Francisco. There's a lot of people in some places, especially our east side of Salinas. So it's interesting that more prevention, and we don't have as many resources and staffing resources for prevention. If you just looked around the United States the last few years, there have been some horrific fires that happened because maybe we, as city government or a county government or a special district, didn't have the resources or didn't take the extra effort to look at the prevention side. I know I'm sure you heard about the horrific fire in Oakland, Ghost Ship Fire. So, and that city's still reeling from that. And who should have done what, when, and what could this have been prevented? That's usually the case when something as horrific as that happens. So, is that prompting some of the change in the fire service to look more at the prevention side?
Yes, it really is. Nationally, the U.S. Fire Administration, FEMA, NFPA, National Fire Protection Agency, they're all working collectively and trying to find methods, programs that not only help identify fire risk within a community, but ways of identifying it early and ways of trying to mitigate that.
Okay.
And as you spoke the fire that was in Oakland, there's going to be a lot of discussion. It's going to be one of those fires that if you think back to like the Great Chicago Fire, which is why we have Fire Prevention Week.
Right.
I think that fire is going to have a lasting impact on the fire service. As a community, they expect that they are safe. And as city administration, you're expecting that the fire department or whichever departments are charged with those things are able to meet those needs and get them done. One of the things that we've spoke about, I think is really important, is we really need to do a risk assessment of our city.
Right.
And what type of buildings do we have out there that are high risk, that have high occupancy levels, and ensuring that those are meeting standards and being inspected on a very frequent basis. And so there's a larger push now as across the world. England and others have always had much larger fire prevention services than typically the U.S. The U.S. has always been a response-based fire versus a prevention-based. And I think we've got some really good opportunities here within our community to make that turn a bit in the city of Salinas to become more of a safe community. Being the fire chief, I see myself as the overall risk manager for the city, for the population, for everyone in the city. And so I can't think about strictly how we respond and what we're going to do when we get there. We've got to think more preventative type measures and try and direct more efforts and try and see if we can get some federal funding to come in and help out with things like that, federal grants to help us. So lots of opportunities here, but yes, there's a big push now on prevention.
Maybe you can fill us in a little more detail on what a community risk assessment entails, the analytics involved and the time it takes, and what's being considered when you do a risk assessment of the community from a fire prevention or fire point of view.
So there's several pieces going to it. It typically will take 6 to 8 months just for getting the general data. Usually it takes about a year from start to end, but usually 6 to 8 months to gather data. The company that will come in and assist us with it will be very engaged in it, but we'll meet with every city department. We'll look at planning and look and see in codes enforcements and they'll look and see what are our high-risk buildings, what are our high-risk manufacturers, and they will categorize everything from high-risk occupancies down to low-risk occupancy, which would be like a single-family dwelling, whereas a high-risk would be a hospital, maybe a skilled nursing facility that has large volumes of patients, apartment buildings, those type of things are more high-risk. And then along the lines of commercial businesses, manufacturing is much higher of a risk to the community and requires more resources should they have an incident versus a convenience store or a car wash, something like that. And so what we'll do is spend a lot of time out in the community looking physically at the buildings, looking at occupancy loads, things like that, and identifying those. All the way to where just it's single-family subdivisions, and we'll look at those as well. Everyone's going to get a good look.
Great.
And then we'll start looking at fire protection measures. We'll look at our water supply. We'll look at our response measures, how many personnel, what apparatus, how they respond, how long it takes traffic has a huge impact when you're doing this. A lot of people don't realize that,
Right.
but traffic has a huge impact. We're trying to get there within 5 minutes, and if you're not getting there till 7 or 8 minutes in some instances, then it gives an opportunity for whatever the emergency event is to expand a little bit. So, so that plays into it. And then what are our prevention measures that we currently do? And you kind of take all that information, and it's all data driven.
Right.
Again, a lot of city department information will come into it, and then we will look at it. Will come together as a model. Then we can look at from prevention, response, codes, all those things. How do we start reducing those risks and identifying measures and steps that we will take as a fire department for the city of Salinas to reduce that risk and make everyone in the community safer.
That sounds like a much more proactive approach than just waiting for the incident to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a lot of things that are very predictable. And so we know that there will be incidents that are going to occur. We know that there are going to be incidents that are going to occur in high-risk manufacturing. So if we know those are there, and we begin to identify what occurs, what is occurring that needs our response, we can start working on more preventative measures to reduce that.
Right. So in terms of Prevention Week, so you'll be hopefully underway with the community assessment during that time, but there'll be other specific programs or projects or ways the citizens can help the fire department, as well as the fire department can help the citizens to look at prevention. So what might be some of the means and tools for that? Is it just simply adding sprinklers or alarms, or what's involved with that, Jeff?
So there's a lot of things that we're planning on doing for Prevention Week, which is going to be October 7th through the 13th.
Right.
We're going to push a large media campaign. We really want to get out the word. One, that if you don't have a working smoke detector on every floor of your house or apartment building, we need to know about it, the fire department.
Right.
We can assist with free smoke detectors, us and the Red Cross working together. We're also going to be pushing out flyers, pamphlets of information, and we're going to send them out through the schools as well for the kids to take home.
Right.
And things like pre-planning an exit. This year's theme is going to be around identifying 2 ways out of your house and getting out as fast as you can and have a meeting point. That's what National Fire Prevention Week is about. That's what the National Fire Prevention or Protection Agency, FEMA, U.S. Fire Administration, that's what they're really trying to get out.
Okay.
So we're going to really be engaged out in the community. We're going to be involved in several different community events that will be out there. We'll have fire apparatus out there. We're going to have stuff to hand out for adults in multiple languages. We're going to have things out there for the kids, and we're going to be very welcoming and have great discussions with them, and we want everyone to be safe. So we're going to put some stuff together once we've identified exactly what are some of the causes of fires in the city of Salinas, what are the highest risks for our residents, and put together some pamphlet and information for them so they can go home and help self-mitigate some of those things.
Right. So in terms of new product or new facilities, new residential homes, new businesses, they probably have to meet a stricter code than homes or residents or businesses that were built many years ago. Is that prevalent in our city as far as you can tell right now?
Yeah, it is, I believe. And it's that way really across the country. And really when you look at styles of construction has changed versus the late 1920s or 30s where you got into the Sears Roebuck catalog and you ordered a home for $5,500 and the craftsman built it on site, all hand and put together. Those type of structures are very different than the ones we have today. The biggest thing that we see is in newer homes is the way they're wiring, their plumbing, the construction material. They're all mandated to have hardwired, which are electrical smoke detectors with battery backups, and all connected. So if one goes off on the first floor or in a garage or another living area, the others would go off. Whereas a lot of the older homes, the wiring is much older, There are a lot of common spaces built within the wall for pipes to run through. And so if you get a small fire on the first floor, it could actually work its way up and spread to multiple floors before you'd even see the fire out. And a lot of them don't have smoke detectors, which is why we really are going to be pushing free smoke detectors to the public as much as we can and get them out there. We want them on every floor. I think that when homes are remodeled, they should have new hardwired smoke detectors. Smoke detectors save lives. It's the cheapest way of prevention. Obviously, in the fire service, we'd love to see more sprinkled homes, just like the businesses. And there's a lot of technology that's come along that way, and they have proven time and again that they save lives by putting the fire out before the fire department gets there, and it's just more of a cleanup measure. So, and a lot of the new modern facilities we're seeing for construction or for manufacturing, things like that, they've got a lot of advanced fire alarm systems in them. They've got different types of sprinkler systems, and so when we get into these higher occupancy level buildings, the codes are more strict and greater. So a lot of the new manufacturing places are, again, very safe and well protected. The older manufacturing, especially if one manufacturing warehouse was built in 1920, it may have been built to fix Model Ts. You know, and if that factory is still standing today, it could be broken into 2 or 3 different types of businesses. One could be a storage for chemicals, and one could be a manufacturing, a welding shop. And so one of the things that we have to be very cognizant of as a community, and this is where our risk assessment will really break into it, is are the buildings being used for what they're designed for? And if they're not, what's in there and what are the type of occupancies that are in there? So older buildings, you see a lot of turnover, remodels, things like that have occurred over the years to suit whoever the tenant was in there for the manufacturing and stuff. So
I can imagine multi-family units might be problematic as well, with a lot of apartments, you know, not knowing, you know, transit, you know, kind of populations that might be there for a couple of years or even less, and then they're moving on. And the owner of that facility really and owner manager, I assume, would have a tough time keeping up, making sure everything is up to snuff, and even knowing how to exit some of these multi-family units might be problems.
Absolutely. And you know, it's a new area, I would say, in fire prevention that really needs to be seriously explored, is multi-families and annual inspections, those type of things. A lot of them outside the city of Salinas, elsewhere in the country, there's a lot of properties that maybe on every 2 or 3 years is when they get inspected, and so it's really handled by the manager or the property owner. And while they are probably trying to do the best they can, things do tend to fall off and they don't realize some of those things. Another concern with multiple family dwellings that I have not seen here yet, but I'm sure it's in here. It's in every community, but one that we had in Kansas City was older homes that were converted. So originally they were going to be a single family dwelling, and then they may take this home and put a stairwell on the exterior to the second floor and wall off the door from the first floor to the second interior, and then it's now a duplex. We've seen them up to where even there is room for 5 families in some single family dwellings. And so that's an area that when it's identified, whether it's by a fire crew or by code enforcement or even the police department, if we can talk together across departments and somebody send a note, hey chief, we went over to this house today and we noticed that these doorways were walled off and we think there's 3 or 4 different families living throughout this place. That's something that we should be looking at. And it's not necessarily to remove people, it's to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure that wherever they're staying, that they have a safe place for them. And I feel like, again, that's part of what government's for. We're here to make sure our citizens are safe. So
we have many performing art venues in our city, whether that's a theater or a theater that's been converted to performing arts, where they have acts. They bring in live acts, and there's a stage, and there's lots of people. They may be sitting in an auditorium style. And like most people, I go into a theater or a performing arts center, I assume it's safe.
Right.
So I have to think that the fire service is taking a critical look at those places and make sure those public gathering places are up to snuff. They do meet the code, because an incident could happen, and it could happen very quickly, and the safety of people is then compromised.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the country, it's unfortunate, but every year there are special event gatherings. If you remember, up in Rhode Island, they had a live band performing in a very small area with a lot of people in there, and they used fireworks and set material on fire inside, and people were kind of slow to leave. Some thought it was part of the show, and there's a lot of fire protection measures that need to be in place when those type of events are being planned. I really think fire prevention and codes enforcement should, before the event actually occurs, at least do a walkthrough and provide some good feedback to the people planning the event, the building owner. One, I'm sure the building owner doesn't want to have a fire in their building.
Right.
Two, the event planner doesn't want an event to go so badly that everybody's running out the door screaming. So I think there's things that we can do to work with them on that. But it's absolutely been an issue across the country, and a lot of many fire codes. One particular fire code is a doorway has to swing out.
Right.
Prior to that fire code, doors may have to open up, and so have to swing inward. And when the first or second person are starting to pull the door open and the crowd is behind them and pushing them, the door won't open.
Right.
And so that's where, over the history, we've had large loss of life, and typically they find them right at the door. And it's because the door swung the wrong way. Well, now fire codes require the door swings outward. So worst case scenario, everybody's falling out the door, but at least they're getting out the door. Lighting above doorways, showing exit, things like that. And so it's really important when there are event centers, things like that, especially ones that are remodeled to from a previous type of use, to be utilized for a special event like that, where we're having some citizens come in. It's really important that we get a chance to at least walk through and ensure the place is safe for the public.
Right. So what are some specific things? What should a business be thinking about in terms of prevention? What should, in terms of fire? And what should a resident be thinking about in terms of prevention, strategies or tactics or tools they should have?
So starting with the business, they need to ensure that storage areas within their occupancy, particularly furnace rooms, are cleared out. We do see quite often boxes and things stuffed into a small storage room, and your furnace and hot water tanks in there. And it is a common cause of fires in those type of occupancies. Ensuring that annually they have their sprinkler system tested, ensuring that their fire alarm is tested and their smoke detectors are all tested annually, ensuring good, clear, well-marked pathways out of the building. And it needs to be multiple pathways out of the building. Including for your workers, your personnel that are in running your place of business, they need to be able to get it as well, typically a second exit, and making sure that that's clear as well. And so I think really doing an annual walkthrough for all the major things, and then having assigned someone within your organization, within your business, to walk around just once every 30 days and make sure that we're not storing things where they're not supposed to be, and sprinkler heads are cleared, and those type of things. Just general housekeeping preventative measures. And make sure you have an address on the front of your building, so when the fire department is called, we can find your building. From a residential side, ensuring that basic things such as, again, not cluttering, putting storage or things inside a utility closet where your furnace and hot water tank is at. Ensuring that, just basic measures, don't store bags of materials, whether it's lawn clippings or trash or things like that, against your house. Make sure you're putting it properly disposed in a can and away from the front of the house or on the side of the house. We've seen fires here in the city of Salinas within the past week, and it's been storage of materials in bags sitting next to the house. The materials caught fire, and it catches the house on fire.
Right.
Barbecue grills and fire pits are always a hazard.
Yeah.
When you're done barbecuing for the night, make sure, if it's charcoal, make sure you've wet it down with a garden hose that's out, and still leave it away from the house. You don't. There's no rules about pushing a grill next to your house, and we do see that. And making sure again that you have got smoke detectors on every floor, every living space there within the house. Typically somewhere in the main living area and somewhere in the bedrooms, if not every bedroom, and make sure that those work. Having a fire extinguisher within your home is an option. And then ensuring that you have talked with your family members about, if we have a fire, here's how you're going to get out, and here's where we're all going to meet.
Okay.
And lastly, as a citizen, to help save yourself, once you have left the house, do not go back in. The firefighters will be there very shortly and can help out and go in with our special self-contained breathing apparatus, so we're breathing fresh air and we can see, and we'll go in and do whatever we need to do. But once someone has gotten out of the structure, out of the building, and it's actually on fire, they really need to stay out.
Right.
So
that's great. So it's good advice, good set of, measures that both businesses and the residents should be taking, not just during the week prevention, but all the time.
All year round.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So anything else that you want to mention, Jeff, in terms of the fire service, what you see coming up in the near future, anything more on prevention and Fire Prevention Week?
So again, I think you'll see a larger public presence from the fire department as we're moving forward. More involvement within the community organizations. We currently are looking at a lot of things in fire prevention. The fire marshal's got some wonderful ideas, and so himself, the operations chief, and myself, and members in the fire department, we're going to work collectively as a group to come up with some good ideas of things that we want to go out and do and help engage the community. And again, a lot of that's going to be feedback from the community.
Right.
I would say I asked the community to start being prepared to look forward to a new fire department website, or at least a redesign, so they can actively engage with us and reach out, and we can interact with them. So there's a lot of pieces, and a lot of these ideas are not reinventing the wheel. It's just us taking the ideas that are out there across the country and really implementing them in a manner that works for Salinas.
Great.
And that's our goal. So we really look forward to being out there engaged, and I encourage any citizen, if they see me walking around, I do a lot of time walking around downtown, looking at buildings and learning things, and if anyone sees me, say hello. I'd love to visit with them anytime. And community organizations, don't hesitate to reach out to invite me or one of our apparatus or personnel, because we'd love to be out there engaged with you.
Right. Well, that's wonderful, Chief, and it's so good to have you here, all your experience, and sounds like you've got a plan of action where you want to take the department, and thank you so much for your tips on prevention, and we look forward to seeing more of those activities that you said, the fire service changing more to maybe a little bit more on prevention and less on the backside, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having us, and look forward to it.
Well, we'll have you on the show again.
Great.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.